Alrighty, hello Megaplex, and welcome to Fursuiting in the time of quarantine. I am so thrilled to have the opportunity to contribute to Megaplex's programming for the second year in a row. Megaplex 2020 was the first virtual convention that I hosted my Fursuiting in the time of quarantine panel at, and 1 full year and 11 separate furry conventions later, we have come full circle. Also, hello to everyone attending at home, as well as those of you on location in Orlando, Florida, at Megaplex itself. Megaplex opened panel submissions to physical and virtual panelists this year, and I was the only virtual speaker whose panel was accepted onto the official schedule. I believe I may actually be the first person to host a panel virtually at an in-person convention, which is pretty exciting. One of the great things about furry conventions going virtual is that the convention going experience has now become accessible to so many more people than before. From the comfort of our own homes and for a fraction of the cost, we can now attend and support furry cons across the country or even on the other side of the world. Whereas I cannot attend Megaplex in person due to finances and logistics, I'm able to be here presenting my panel for you all today, as well as folks at home who are tuning in, not being at Megaplex in person either. Many cons have set up logistics for virtual events over this past year plus, and I hope that some of these events and aspects do persist, and that we see a lot more hybrid events like Megaplex is doing in the future as we continue forward with our conventions and events. Before we get started, I would like to request that you please hold all questions until the designated Q&A segment at the end of the panel. You'll be more than welcome to type questions and comments into the chat as we go. However, be aware that while I am presenting, I will not be able to look at the chat. After the presentation is done, we'll have a nice long Q&A segment where I'll be more than happy to address your questions and comments and what have you. I don't believe Megaplex has a staffer on set with a microphone or anything like that for physical attendees to ask questions, but when the time comes, you can log into Hopin via megaplex.online to ask me questions, which I will answer for you here, live, right here on stream. Also, for those of you in the panels room 2 in person at Megaplex, if one of you could just take a picture of the room at some point while I'm doing my presentation, I would love to have a photo of myself presenting my panel at Megaplex, just, for a little keepsake of mine. Also, I'm really interested to see how they set up the room, like with the projection or the broadcast or whatever may be going on. If you are watching from home and you're new to Hopin, you can double click on either my lovely face or the slideshow, which I believe is on that side for you, to make either of those bigger on your screen. That way when we get into the presentation, you'll be able to read the text on the slides more clearly. In addition, barring any technical difficulties, there will be a recording of this panel available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Shetani. In the days following this broadcast. The link to my YouTube channel should be above my head up there to the side of your screen somewhere. So if you miss part of the panel, if you want to go back and listen to it again, or show it to a friend who may not have been able to be here for the convention live, you'll be able to rewatch at your leisure. I will also have that video captioned for greater accessibility. So, let's get started with a brief introduction. Hello, my name is Shetani, my pronouns are she, her, and my fursona is a king cheetah. I've been an active part of the furry community since 2012, though I had been following along for many years prior. I've been fursuiting for 7+ years and counting, and it is one of my most enjoyed and treasured pastimes. Let's take a look at the situation at hand. As we all know, the furry community is a vast and diverse space, and there are so many different ways that we connect with the community as well as each other. Just as how you do not need to be a cosplayer to be a part of any other fandom, owning a fursuit is not at all a requirement to take part in furry. However, there is a small yet vocal minority of us who do enjoy fursuiting. For those of us who have fursuits, of course, it is a great, really fun and creative pastime for us to be able to express ourselves. We've invested a lot of time and effort into this. Either you paid someone a great deal to make a fursuit for you just to your specifications, or you yourself have taken the time to invest all of that effort, creative process, learning, materials, and everything into creating what are essentially these wearable works of art. Our fursonas are characters that are very near and dear to us. You know, fursuiting is something more than just costuming. We're not dressing up as a character from a movie or TV show that somebody else has created. We've made these characters ourselves and put a bit of ourselves into them. We've grown very attached, and having the opportunity to embody these characters in the flesh, so to speak, is personally significant. Fursuiting's not just a performance. In our community, it is a social activity. We've come to rely on fursuits as an aid for socializing, networking, and having fun. Many furries have some level of social anxiety or social awkwardness, and no matter which side of the costume you're on, fursuiting helps break the ice and embolden folks to be more confident, speak to people they wouldn't normally be able to, or try new things and go places they never would have gone before. Naturally, conventions are where the bulk of these social gatherings take place. We are slowly seeing physical events pop up in certain areas and countries, thanks to the gradual rollout of the vaccine, though the great bulk of in-person furry cons have still been postponed for the time being. The same goes for fur meets and the like, and with many places still enforcing social distancing measures, people can't even go outside to public suit. This begs the question, what do I do with my fursuit when there are no in-person events and I can't even go outside to meet up with my friends? It's great that we're seeing physical events start to return. However, keep in mind that even without a global pandemic throwing a wrench in the works, there are many factors that can prevent people from attending conventions and meetups. Finances, traveling, physical limitations, getting time off of work. Perhaps there just aren't any furry events in your area. We're lucky to live in the United States. Many countries around the world simply do not have furry conventions. I don't go to as many cons as some of the more prolific fursuiters and fandom personalities that you might happen to see online. For that reason, I've gotten really good at finding ways to utilize my fursuit without having to rely on an external event. Shortly after the pandemic began, I noticed that a lot of my fursuiter friends and peers on social media were lamenting that they didn't know what to do with their fursuit without conventions. They were completely at a loss, and they even talked about how they felt so sad and disappointed looking over there at their fursuit, just sitting lonely in the box waiting to be worn again. This threw me for a loop, to be completely honest, and I thought to myself, well, what's stopping you from wearing your fursuit right now? It was then that I realized there was a niche that I could help fill, and decided why not share those techniques and ideas with my fellow fursuiters to help make their quarantine experience a little more bearable. So without further ado, let's get right into it. One of the simplest and most accessible things that you can do with your fursuit at home is photo shoots. Many folks are daunted by this at first. You hear the term photography and you think of expensive cameras and lenses and lighting setups and the whole 9 yards. This couldn't be further from the truth. While having dedicated photography equipment would be, of course, helpful, for a hobbyist or somebody just looking to have some fun, it is by no means required. These days, almost everyone has a smartphone right there in their pocket. With the ubiquitousness of phones, they're almost required for modern life. And for this reason, your standard smartphone can do a lot more than folks give it credit for. Unless your phone is excessively old, several years old, it's likely that it has a pretty high quality camera, definitely serviceable for taking some fursuit photos. Now, every fursuit is built differently and has a different set of limitations, but Some things are just harder to do in fursuit if you don't have a handler. A handler is a second person not wearing a fursuit who assists a fursuiter with tasks that they may find difficult or impossible to do due to the fact that they're wearing the costume. Depending on your situation, whether there are people that you are living with, whether your household members are willing to help you out with your fursuiting, whether you have any friends who are into the hobby or not, in the end, you may find yourself having to manage solo. Don't worry, there are tons of tools that you can use to assist with doing photo shoots entirely on your own. I personally am fortunate enough to live with my partner who is also a gigantic furry, but there are some times when she's busy and can't help out, or sometimes I have a very specific vision in my head for how I want a shoot to go, and it's not really something that another person can visualize. For whatever reason, over the years, I've picked up a ton of tricks and tips for managing fursuits photography entirely on one's own. The number one tool, which for me is a lifesaver, is voice activation. If you go into the settings on your phone's camera, there will likely be a toggle for this. I have an Android phone. It is called voice control. If you have a different type of phone, it may be under a different title, but essentially what this is you say a command like smile or capture, and the phone will take a picture for you hands-free. I like to say cheese because it makes my eyes crinkle up, which is quite useful for the unique type of fursuit that I have. And of course, this is super helpful for hands-free photography. If your fursuit has big, unwieldy paws that are hard to get on and off quickly, or if you have fursuit paws with attached arm sleeves, which means that you can't take one of your paws off without entirely starting to disrobe, you will find this extremely helpful. I think voice activation is severely underutilized for cell phone photography. Even in your day-to-day non-costuming activities, many people don't even know that their phone can do this. You can even use it to record video, not just pictures, though I will get to that later on. For getting a full body shot or something staged, like a wider shot in front of a backdrop, you're going to want to place your camera on something instead of holding it. I recommend a tripod for this. Again, it doesn't have to be anything expensive or professional if that is not financially accessible for you. There's a lot that can be done with just those little three-legged phone tripods with the bendy legs. Selfie sticks are also a viable choice. They were super duper popular a few years back, so you probably have one just lying around at home collecting dust. Why not go ahead and put that old thing to good use? Here you can see Erlady is making fantastic use of a selfie stick. And of course, there are timers. You can set up the timer on your phone or use an external one. Many handheld gadgets can be bought online that pair to your phone using Bluetooth. Press a button and it takes a picture for you. If you have a smaller hand paw on your fursuit with more dexterity, you can use one of those pretty easily, or you can hide the remote inside the paw itself so that it's not visible in the shot. And if all else fails, you can just go for the tried and true hand behind the back pose. Again, you don't really need to go out and buy a whole bunch of new stuff. This is all about fursuiting at home for fun with what you already have. Say you don't have a tripod for your camera, you can stack up a bunch of books or some boxes and lean your phone on top. There's no need to buy a pro light setup, ring light, whatever the deal, when a well-angled desk lamp will do the trick. Lighting does a lot for good-looking photos, and often your fursuit will look differently in natural and artificial light. You can play around with this. If you don't have a secondary light source, wait until the height of the day, position yourself in front of an open window, and see which you like best. If you really want to make your pictures pop, a little bit of editing can go a long way. Perhaps your camera's not the best quality, or maybe you took a picture that was really good but it came out a little bit blurry. Some very basic editing can help clear that up. You especially see this when taking pictures with the front-facing camera, the selfie camera on your phone, as that is usually of a lower megapixel quality, and the photos you take may be more grainy or less clear. Many photos allow you to edit your pictures right from the camera app on your phone, and of course, various social media apps and such are available with a plethora of filters and tools that you can use for photo editing on your phone. Even Telegram, which you more than likely use if you are a furry, has really robust photo controls that let you adjust the saturation, the gamma, the contrast. There's so much you can do with the photos that you're sending to people to make your shots look really snazzy. Now, most of us don't live in a mansion or have a whole photo studio full of props at our disposal. That's okay, this is all just for fun. You can try rearranging your furniture, use different camera orientations, and basically see what you can do with what's available to you. Many online tutorials and life hack style videos can be looked up. These will show you how to do cool and creative photo tricks with what you already have around in your house. So, how about some ideas for all these photos that you'll be taking, huh? Let's start off with something simple and easy. You've got hobbies other than fursuiting, right? Right? Well, why not go ahead and show them off to the world? If your persona, like mine, is basically yourself as an animal creature, you can set up scenes that show what you like to do. Or if your fursuit is more of a separate character, you can think of activities that would fit with their personality or the world that they live in. Here, for example, we've got Wad, who is not only a fursuiter, but a fursuit maker, making fursuits while in fursuit. How cool is that? And Babbles the bunny is right there outside doing some gardening on a lovely sunny day. Perfect environment for a bunny rabbit to be in, and something that really fits with his character. Cosplaying is always super duper popular, as well as a personal favorite of mine. After all, fursuiting is a variant of cosplay, in which we're simply dressing as characters of our own creation, rather than ones other people made up. I particularly enjoy blending costumes with my fursuit, with that combination helping to blur the lines and bridge the gap between the two hobbies in people's minds. Here's a photo from a shoot I did as Diva from Overwatch in her carbon fiber skin. Diva is a gamer character, so as you can see, I set up a bunch of video game boxes, some Mountain Dew and Doritos, typical gamer snacks. Just simple props you've already got lying around the house that really help flesh out your scene a little more and make it look like a true photo shoot. As well, you can see Fangorn, who is, of course, dressed as a Jedi Knight from Star Wars, complete with a working lightsaber and some space-related paraphernalia. Very cool and very fun. Bedroom posing is a tried and true furry favorite, of course. Also a valid option for the itty-bitty living space folks. Even if you don't have a lot of space to call your own, if you live in a dorm or apartment or with family or whatever the case may be, I'm fairly certain you at least have a bed that's just for you. Things like coordinating bed sheets or stuffed animals to match your fursona's species can bring a little more character to your photos, and whether you choose to go for sleepy, cute, or even a little bit spicy, there is a whole gamut of moods that can be conveyed with these type of pictures. Working from home. So here's a new fursuiting scenario that actually came to be because of the pandemic. Thanks, COVID. If you're fortunate enough to be able to work from home, you can pop your fursuit on and snap some pictures showing what a typical workday is like for you. And even if this isn't a case, if you think it would be fun or it would fit your persona's character, you can totally set up a working from home set and do it anyway. It may sound silly to lay it out like this, but I find that folks really do sometimes need reminding that you can just make things up for fun. I mean, look at me, I may not be a cheetah in real life, but I play one on the internet. Staging photos is totally an acceptable and viable option for any scenario that your imagination can conjure. Playing with pets. This is a fantastic one. Here we can see Edward getting in some valuable pooch time, and Blue, of course, with their own beloved dog whose appearance actually inspired the look of the fursuit. Look at that, they're both matching. It's so adorable. The juxtaposition of real and costume animal gets so many reactions from folks online, be it dogs, cats, ferrets, rats, birds, reptiles, or even fish. If you share your home with pets, they can often make for really fun and unique co-stars for your fursuit photo shoots. Do keep in mind that animals can often react unpredictably to people in costume. So if you have never tried this before, take the time to ensure that your pet is accustomed to your fursuit and interacting with you while you're wearing it. You do not want a traumatized pet or a damaged fursuit. Cooking is another fun photo shoot idea that ties into the hobbies I mentioned earlier. I'm doing a staged photo here, but as you can see from Sarak's example, there are some fursuiters who can and actually do make food while in fursuit. Buttercup is an absolutely darling fursuiter who runs a YouTube channel and TikTok page called Bake Me Up Buttercup, where she bakes lots of yummy treats in fursuit and shares recipes with her viewers. She is also here at Megaplex, so if you keep an eye out, you may even get to see her running around the convention. I recommend checking out her channel if you're interested, and I will be touching on this topic again a little bit later on. Fursuit pictures don't always need to be elaborate fantasy scenes. You can just show people scenes from everyday life. This is something that doesn't require a lot of outside effort or preparation, which can make it more accessible to any fursuiter, even beginners. Here we have Captain Julius, who is a cuttlefish, sitting down to have a picnic and eating some sushi, which is an absolutely hilarious and creative idea that plays off the species of his fursona. Meanwhile, Ashram is in fursuit doing laundry, and what makes it even more unusual is that he's hanging up yet another fursuit. Again, there's so much potential here for creativity, and just the fact that a big animal person is doing it can make even the most mundane task memorable and engaging for your audience. As a more specific offshoot of the previous topic, you can show people what you've been doing while you're in quarantine. For example, over the past year and a half, I've really relished dressing down, wearing some nice comfy clothes, and relaxing with a nice big hot cup of tea to play some games on my Nintendo Switch. So here I am doing just that. And finally, the tried and true selfie. No frills, no bells or whistles, just take a nice photo of yourself. Portraits like these are great for showing off different facial expressions or moods of your fursuit, as well as a really nice outfit or accessories for us partial fursuiters. For these, say you're taking pictures in front of a blank wall and you want less negative space behind you, you can use a poster or a cool art piece that you might have in your house. Frame yourself in front of that to make a more interesting shot. One thing I'd like to highlight before we move on: the situation in which we find ourselves can give us unique opportunities for fursuiting that we normally wouldn't be able to access. Many fursuiters have reservations about fursuiting in public when not at a con or party or other socially accepted setting. This pandemic has forced a lot of people indoors, which means that outdoor spaces are not as populated as they used to be. So for those of you who may be more shy or hesitant about fursuiting outside, you may find this your chance to capitalize and try some new things. I myself had what I consider a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity last June when a crosswalk near me was painted with the Progress Pride flag for Pride Month, and the main intersection was temporarily shut down due to the situation. I grabbed a local photographer friend of mine. As you can see from the focal distance of the shot, we stayed socially distant. We were able to go out and get these absolutely amazing pictures, which normally would not have been possible. I have other fursuiter friends who reported being able to go hiking and climb mountains, for instance, with their fursuits, get some really breathtaking photos. As long as it's something you can do safely and make sure that you're social distancing, this can be your opportunity to do some really neat stuff. Please note that if you do choose to go outside for fursuiting, you must also wear a protective face mask under your fursuit. No, a fursuit head is not a suitable substitute for a mask. Fursuit heads are built to have the best possible ventilation and airflow, which is the exact opposite of what a medical mask is designed to do. A fursuit head does not filter anything and will not prevent the spread of viral particles. Those of you attending Megaplex in person will know that they did in fact have mask mandates during the convention, even for fursuiters. And it's not even a good idea to joke about this, the whole like, oh, those furries have the right idea, wearing the heads to protect themselves. Even in the context of humor, it spreads the idea, which can lead to uninformed people making some very unwise decisions. Please wear a mask, people. In addition to taking pictures, you can also make videos in your fursuit. We don't have a lot of time here today, so I won't reiterate things that I've already said. Just know that a lot of the techniques and suggestions that I mentioned for photography can be applied to videography as well. Much can be done with your own phone without the need for a camcorder or designated video camera. I mentioned voice activation earlier, which can be used not only to take pictures, but also start recording a video completely hands-free. All those tips about tripods and using tools to stabilize your camera for photography certainly go hand in hand for video recording. Editing your videos in post, you do not need paid or professional level software to do this. Videos can be edited with many social media apps or phone apps if you're recording a video to post on your social media. Your phone itself will likely have a video editor that supports basic editing functions like cropping the screen, adjusting the lighting, cutting down the length. Maybe you need to clip out the beginning or the end where you took off your fursuit paw to hit the button on your camera. You can just do all of those right in the video app itself. If you have a laptop computer, it likely has a built-in webcam that can be used, and of course, some of the editing tips I mentioned earlier to clean up your video a little. If you don't have a webcam or yours is kind of crappy, you can also buy a separate one. I did not have too much trouble finding a webcam when it came time for me to look for one due to the high demand since everyone is doing video calls and conferencing. This video right now is being recorded on a webcam I bought online. As you can see, the image quality is pretty darn good and it was not very expensive at all. If you don't have a webcam, you can also download free software to use your phone as a webcam. This is good to keep in mind if you want to do group chats or live streaming in your fursuit, which I will talk more about later. And of course, if you don't want to record on your machine itself, you can record videos on your phone and plug that into your computer to transmit the files over for later editing. If your videos involve you talking, you'll probably want to use an external microphone to record sound. A fursuit head, being something big that's right in front of your face and your mouth, will often muffle the voice and make it hard for your audience to understand you. Some people use small mics, lapel mics, that kind of thing that they can put inside of their fursuit head while they're talking. Or you can also get an external mic, whatever's within your price range, and have that on a stand fairly close to your face to record audio while you're in fursuit. Then you can sync the audio track up to the video. Free programs such as Audacity can be used to adjust your audio, clearing up any background noise or muffling that may occur due to the fursuit head. Another option, which depends on what kind of video you are doing, is to record the audio either beforehand or in post separately and edit that into the video itself. If you're doing a how-to video or something with a narration or a voiceover, this will likely be what you want to choose. Again, don't focus too much on this. Your videos don't need to look or sound 100% professional perfect unless you are a professional streamer or you have a Patreon where people are literally paying you to make fursuit content. Again, this is just designed to be something to have fun and keep active in your fursuit during the pandemic. So you do not need to worry about being the best of the best. What is most important is that you yourself are having fun. You can see me right there showing off a couple tools of the trade. I've got a green screen behind me for recording video. I've got a blue snowball microphone on a stand, and of course some headphones for audio editing. So, what are some ideas for fursuit videos that you can make? Short videos are very accessible and easy for folks to get right into. If you have an idea for a cute little skit, perhaps your fursuit character is having a bad day, maybe they're trying something new and it goes well or it goes poorly. If your character is from a particular universe, you can try to set up a scene from that universe showing what a day in the life is like for them. There are many fun options that can be done with this. Memes are obviously super popular and very easy to make videos about in fursuit. Every day there's some new meme going around online. If you're looking for quick and fun things to do in suit and keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the furry community, this is the way to go. Dance videos. Fursuit dancing is extremely popular and a big subculture in its own right within our furry community. I myself choose not to dance in fursuit. The public does not need to be subjected to that, let me tell you. But I have the utmost respect and admiration for those of us who have the skill to dance in fursuit and want to show their talents and expression with the world. This is a great deal of fun. If you have even the slightest amount of dance talent, I recommend doing fursuit dancing videos. You can even record updates in your fursuit, talking about what's going on with your life, current events, how you're handling the pandemic, anything new or exciting that's going on. Where to post these videos you're making depends on where you're most active and what you want to do with them. Twitter is a very big site for furries right now. A lot of furries are on Twitter, and I predominantly use it myself. It has a 2-minute and 20-second time limit. You can get a lot of content into that time frame, but if you happen to go over that, what you can easily do is put a clipped preview of the video on Twitter and link to your complete upload somewhere else. Instagram is another great social media platform for short-form videos, and one I also use myself. This has a 1-minute limit on the video itself as a post. You can also use their stories feature, which are temporary posts that disappear after a day, similar to the fleets that were just recently removed from Twitter. Depending on what type of content you're making, you can utilize those to your advantage. TikTok is a very popular platform as well, though not one that I myself use, so I'm not super duper familiar with its features. It used to have a 1-minute limit, though I believe that is now lifted for certain users. TikTok has a unique feature, duets and stitches. Essentially, you can make replies or add on to somebody else's video. If you see another fursuiter doing a trend and you want to participate, or you want to add something on to a funny video that another furry has made, that gives you a lot of content opportunities and networking opportunities to work with. TikTok also has a huge audio library of songs, dialogue clips from movies, as well as user-created audio clips that can be utilized in the videos that you make on that platform, giving you some more ideas for your fursuit videos. If you have more to say and do than can be crammed into just a few seconds, longer format videos expand your content creation possibilities. I myself run a YouTube channel where I do a series called Cheetah Chat with Shetani. I talk about different topics of interest pertaining to the furry community that I don't see other people talking about too much. You can check that out if you're interested at youtube.com/Shetani. Discussion videos and talking head style videos are quite common. Almost anyone has knowledge or opinions that they would like to share with the community. How-tos are another thing you can do. I mentioned Bake Me Up Buttercup earlier, who runs a baking recipe video series, all of which is being done in Fursuit, of course. If you have any talents or hobbies, like playing a musical instrument, for instance, maybe that's a skill you have, and you can do it in Fursuit to be more engaging. There's crafting, building, pretty much anything that you can do in your fursuit, you can show others how to do it too. Reaction videos are a thing, doing vlogs. If you yourself aren't a very creative type, this is always an option for you. Though your videos do not need to be in these formats, you can do even short films in your fursuit. Perhaps your character is one that you have established a universe for, or perhaps there is a story that you would want to tell, and you choose to do that through combining the medium of video with fursuiting. There are even online furry film festivals that you can submit your films to, get them in front of a wider audience, and even have the chance to win prizes and accolades for your work. Platforms for sharing these include YouTube, one of the biggest and most well-known online video sites. This will get you the largest number of views if you choose to use it. It has a 15-minute limit for regular users, longer if you're verified. YouTube's popularity can be both a blessing and a curse, as you'll get a very wide audience, but you can't control what types of people will see your videos, so you may have some bleed over outside of the furry community, which can lead to harassment, trolling, and other less than desirable interaction. Vimeo is another platform for longer uploads. This one does not have a length limit, so if you've got something like a feature-length fursuit film that you've made, or you made like a 6-hour-long video talking about your favorite movie or such and such, you can upload that there. This platform is less restrictive in regards to content matching. Anyone who's used YouTube pretty much knows that they can be very militant about that, and it is notorious for hitting people with a copyright strike for using just a few seconds of a copyrighted song. With Vimeo, you don't need to worry about that. However, on the downside, it has a much smaller user base, so you might not get as much organic traffic to your videos, and you might need to do a little bit more of a hustle with promoting them elsewhere yourself. Piggybacking off of that, streaming is another thing you can do in your fursuit while you're stuck at home, and you don't even need to leave your house to do it. Gaming is probably one of the more common streaming activities. Folks love to stream themselves playing all sorts of video games, card games, and even tabletop games. It is a great way to make new friends, and money has even been raised for charities and good causes through donation streams hosted by furries in our community. I myself have even gotten into streaming games and Fursuit on weekends via my YouTube channel, as it's a great way to be social when you can't physically have friends over to your place. Art can also be streamed online. We furries love to commission art of our characters, as well as watch the artists at work bringing masterpieces to life. Another MagpieBones Fursuit compatriot of mine has done art streams while in his fursuit, and of course, being in fursuit while you make art can drive a ton of viewers to your stream. Q&As, AMAs, Ask Me Anythings, TMI Tuesdays, any sort of thing like that where you interact with your online friends and followers and drive the conversation with questions, those are very popular as well. Many of the platforms that I've mentioned earlier support live streaming in some capacity, those including YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook, as well as platforms that are specifically set up for hosting streams like Twitch and Discord for gaming, and Picarto, which is geared towards artists. And before we transition away from videos, I would like to mention making GIFs. If you filmed a longer format video or short format video like the kinds I mentioned previously, you can snip short little clips out of those and make them into animations for easy sharing online. Here are some cute examples of things you can do. Aries is playing and cuddling with their pet kitty cat, while Mark is giving us a very cute fuzzy lion wave. If you use Telegram or social media, you'll know how popular these are as reaction images. And instead of searching through for the perfect one to fit your mood, you can simply make your own using your fursuit. No need to pay somebody $1 billion to make a custom animated Telegram sticker. People react very well to these, and it's something more novel than just sending an emoji or a generic Telegram sticker of somebody else's character. Public video projects are so much fun to participate in Fursuit as well as host. If you're unfamiliar with the concept, in short, it's a creative project where many people come together to bring an idea to life. Someone has a concept for a video they'd like to make, they ask their friends or put out a call on social media. Everyone gets their part or instructions on what they would like to do. They film their part, and the host puts everything together into one collaborative project. Usually you'll see this taking the form of a music video, as the concept lends itself well to the format, but there are unlimited things you can do with this. If you are a fursuiter looking for such projects to participate in, keep an eye out for submission calls on sites like Twitter, Telegram chats, Discord servers, forums, popular places for furries. If you can't find any to participate in and you have an idea that you don't see people doing and you want to bring that to life, you yourself can host your own fursuit video project. All you need to do is just get people to spread the word about your project, and I guarantee you other fursuiters will come and want to contribute. Let's take a look at some examples of public fursuiter video projects that I myself have contributed to, and hopefully jog a little bit of that creative inspiration for you. Quarantine by Ringer was a project where Ringer composed a song about what it's like being in quarantine. For the visual, they asked for a bunch of clips from other fursuiters showing what they're doing in quarantine. If you'd like to check out the video yourself, there is a link to Ringer's YouTube page on screen. Another video project I took part in is Mask Up. This was a video where fursuiters were asked to take a short clip of themselves putting on a face mask or utilizing a face covering in some way with their fursuit. Topical concepts like these are quite popular, and with other people submitting and contributing, you've got something that's more engaging than what you could do just sitting at home by yourself. Again, the link to Moore's page is up on the screen if you would like to watch the Mask Up video. Rascal did a really cool series showcasing different fursuiters from around the world. This was a monumental undertaking that spanned something like 20 weeks and 2 separate volumes. The videos were hosted on TikTok, but you did not need to have a TikTok account to participate. All of the preparation and stuff like that was done on Telegram. And I haven't even counted all of the different countries and continents that ended up being represented when the video project was done. It is such an amazing showcase of all the diversity that we have in the furry community. Again, this is a prime idea of the type of fursuiting you can do and support without having to go out and travel. If you're interested in taking part in videos like this, I highly recommend that you follow Rascal online. They do video projects like this very, very regularly. So in a couple months or weeks, you may even have the chance to take part in one yourself. If you wish to do something a bit more technically advanced, a great example can be taken from Infernity, the Taiwanese furry convention, and their chain reaction video. For this, they asked participants to take a card, hold it up to the camera, not in fursuit, and then remove the card to show themselves in their fursuit. The person would then pass the card off screen to the next person, and all the videos were synced up. These type of transition videos or videos with a common visual linking all the pieces are very popular on TikTok and other apps right now. Like I said, this is kind of more advanced mode for group video projects. It is more technically complicated in that you are involving props, and you also need to coordinate the direction in which each person in the lineup passes their card so that everything flows together smoothly. But in the end, the final project was something really very, very impressive. If all these examples have gotten you excited to take part in some fursuit group projects right now, I have fantastic news. Great Fox is currently taking video submissions for his Automatic Fox music video. Just go to the Telegram chat link right there to find out about any more info and send in your clip, and make sure to tell him Shetani sent you. Group video calls are also an engaging option. There's no reason to not do this in fursuit if you have other people that you're comfortable fursuiting with on camera. There are different platforms you can use if you want to start hosting group video projects on your own. Zoom allows you to do group video calls for up to 40 minutes with a free plan and up to 100 members. For those who want to host their own meetings or think this is something that they'll be doing very frequently, you can shell out for the paid option, which expands your time limit on meetings. Discord has no time limit and no member limit as far as I know. This is something that I myself have been getting more involved with in recent days. Omegle is a browser-based video chat site that you do not need to download a separate client for and is only one-on-one. Telegram has finally just rolled out group video call support. Catching up to the craze there, Telegram, good job. It allows video calls in group chats for up to 30 participants. These video calls can be either scheduled or impromptu. For instance, I am in a cheetah chat group on Telegram, and all the cheetahs get together periodically for a group video call where we chat, wear our fursuits if we have them, play trivia together, and it's just a really fun time. At least while interacting with other furries, you'll know it's a safe avenue for you to be wearing your fursuit. Many different groups exist to facilitate networking in this regard. If you, the viewer, are looking for fursuit group video chats that you can start taking part in right now, here are some furry video call communities on Discord that I found. The servers have various schedules, are very flexible, and you do not need to worry about having a fursuit on to join the calls. So don't worry about not being able to make it to every single meeting or what have you. Only do what you can. The Fuzzy Omegle Weekends is another event. This is facilitated on Twitter but takes part on the video chat website Omegle. Instead of being a group chat, this is a one-on-one thing where you get matched up with a random fursuiter who's using the same event tags. There's no time limit. You can talk to the other person as long as you want, and when it is time to move on to the next person, you can just go ahead and do so. This group meets every Saturday starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you can check out their Twitter page at FuzzyOWeekends if you would like to learn more about the event and how you can start participating as a fursuiter. Let's not forget about online conventions. As you can see, I'm attending an online con right now. I'm wearing my fursuit and I'm having a great time. Many other virtual furry cons are hosted in a live format with events that you can participate with using your webcam. These can include online fursuit parades and fursuit meet and greets. like the one pictured right there that we had at AnthroConline just last month. Dance competitions too. Here's a screenshot from the AnthroCon online dance competition last year. Dance comps will typically take pre-recorded submissions beforehand and judge them live on stream. Though some VR chat cons have done actual live dance competitions with the help of body tracking technology, if you enter a Fursuit dance comp, you will likely be asked to record your submission video ahead of time. Costume contests are also a thing. Here we see Temperance doing a cosplay of a Khajiit from Elder Scrolls. No, that is not a render, that is an honest-to-goodness fursuit that they actually entered into the Cosplay Central costume competition. Many video games, shows, and other media franchises have anthropomorphic animal characters or races. Depending on the species or the look of your fursuit, you can use accessories and outfits to adapt your fursona into a cosplay character. As seen in this example, a lot of naturally colored felines can do double duty as a Khajiit. I have a ton of friends who enjoy dressing up their fursuits as characters from Beastars or Zootopia. Many franchises feature werewolves or dragons or various species of mythical horse, things like that. You can adapt your fursuit to be either a specific or generic character from that universe. The sky is really the limit. And if you need some inspiration as a fursuiter, all you need to really do is hang around some non-furries at a con and see what you get misidentified as the most. But also, as I mentioned earlier, you don't need to cosplay as a specific character. You can always just combine cosplays with your fursuit if that is something that you think would be really fun and cool. So, you recorded a whole bunch of stuff in your fursuit. Where do you share it? Why, where the furries are, of course. And in this day and age, that means practically anywhere. Though there are a few sites that are more frequented by furries and have a rather large furry user base. Twitter is really big among furries right now. Instagram is popular too. Facebook, I do not use myself, though I know a lot of other furries do. Mastodon is a chat client that is similar to Twitter, but with a lot better features that has a sizable furry user base. There's actually a really active furry community on Reddit at the r/furry subreddit. You can post there. Telegram's like the Wild West for furries. There is a furry bot that you can use to search for furries in your area, your state, or even your city if it's big enough. You can join groups for furries of your species, like I'm in a chat for cheetahs, I'm in a chat for other furries who own fursuits by the maker MagpieBones. I'm in a lot of hobby chats, like furries who like My Chemical Romance, furries who enjoy video making. Any similar hobbies as yourself, you name it, there's a furry Telegram group for it, I can guarantee you. The same goes for Discord servers, which I mentioned previously. And in a like-minded group such as that, fursuiting stuff is more than welcome to be shared. So it can be hard to motivate yourself to fursuit when you're not able to do so in a group with other people. We do as much as we can, but in the end, you're still isolated at home and not actually going out with your friends. It can be mentally taxing to go through the huge effort of fursuiting and suiting up just to take a couple fun pictures for social media. Try to motivate yourself to stay active by sticking to a schedule. Say, I'm going to post every Friday, or I'm going to post once a month at least. There are hashtag trends you can follow on Twitter, Instagram, and other social media apps like hashtag Fursuit Friday, where people share pictures of their fursuits on a weekly basis, and even tags tailored to people with suits from a specific maker, like hashtag MagpieBones Monday in my case. They may even be tags for species or hobbies, paraphilias, things like that. Go ahead and capitalize on those. Use them as an excuse to make yourself get into fursuit if that helps. Say to yourself, oh, Friday's coming up. I promised myself I would have a new picture to post. So that motivates you to get into your fursuit and do the activity. Look for groups that meet on a regular basis. I mentioned some groups earlier that you can join where people get into fursuit and interact with each other on a high frequency. I'm sure there are many others that I'm not even aware of out there. But it is important to know your own limits and only do what you feel comfortable with. If you're just not feeling it one day, it's okay to skip a day of a chat group or something. Take care of yourself first and foremost. Take care of your physical and mental health. If you're not in the right mindset to fursuit, when it starts feeling more like a chore than a fun hobby, That's when you know that you need to step it back, recollect yourself, get your health back, and regain the right mindset before you go out and start fursuiting. Why even bother fursuiting at home? There are a ton of great reasons. First of all, maintenance of your fursuit. If you're putting the costume on and wearing it, you're going to have to maintain it afterwards. Fursuits can't be kept in a box or on a hanger for very long. They need to be maintained. When there's a long span of time between conventions or events, we sometimes don't do that as often as we should. By going through the motions of fursuiting, you will become aware of any rips or popped seams that need to be maintained. You'll have to brush out any knots from the fur, disinfect it after wear like you normally do. All of that to keep it in peak condition for when we can go out to see each other again. Suiting keeps you and your character in the public eye. If you don't post a lot on social media, your friends are going to start wondering what happened to you. Fursuit pictures and regular updates let people know that you're okay, you're not sick, and you're doing all right. If your livelihood depends on the furry community, for example, if you're a commission artist, costume maker, or craftsperson, perhaps you have a fursuit that acts like a mascot for your business. Using your fursuit in that fashion can drive more customers to your business to keep that income flowing, which is even more important in these times. Human beings need social interaction. Fursuiting is an avenue for that socialization. Even if we cannot do it in person, we can still communicate with each other online and at least in part fulfill that social interaction need. And finally, just wearing your fursuit makes you happy. Pursuing hobbies that bring you joy, no matter what they may be, is crucial for physical and mental health. If fursuiting is something that you love, it's going to make you feel better, improve your mood, and promote positivity. Remember that the most important person for you to be suiting for is yourself. All right, so we are doing fantastically here. At this point, I would like to open up the floor to questions. Any online viewers, feel free to type your questions and comments and observations into the chat right now. In-person viewers who are in panel rooms 2 at Megaplex, you can log into the link on the screen, log into Hopin, and find the session for fursuiting in the time of quarantine. Go ahead and type your questions into the chat, and I will be more than happy to answer any sort of queries that you may have. If there is anything that you think that I should have touched on more during the panel, anything you would like me to go back and mention again. If you have any questions about fursuiting in general or conventions in general, interacting with the furry community, anything like that, I'm going to go ahead and take a little water break here for a second. Alrighty then. Yeah, unfortunately, I think my panel was scheduled as the second to last event of the entire Megaplex convention, so I'm aware that Sunday afternoon is not exactly the most hoppin' time to be scheduled for a panel. I do appreciate everybody who came out in person or virtually to support my panel here. Again, any sort of questions that you may have about anything at all, feel free to go ahead and leave those in the chat. I do have a question here from Nico who asks, what are some challenges that you faced when doing a photo shoot from home? Oof, that is a pretty big one. The biggest challenge that I face when doing my at-home photo shoots is not having the resources or the technical ability to create what I have envisioned. You know, when I think about the shoots that I would love to do, sometimes I simply, you know, being at home, I'm very limited by the space that I live in or the spaces that I can find that would allow me to shoot. So sometimes my imagination is larger than life, And I find myself getting disappointed when I need to cut corners or end up with a less professional looking photo than what I had imagined in my head. Over the years, I have come to, be more at peace with that. It's been said quite frequently that artists are often the people who are most critical of their own work, and that's very, very true. Uh, when you're the person who has an idea and for art that you're creating, whatever format or medium that may be in, you yourself know what you had envisioned, and so you're more critical of all those flaws or things that just never came through in the final piece. The viewer seeing that, they may not even know those things. They may be looking at it and thinking, wow, what a great picture. So it's important to keep in mind that. And, I'm only coming at this from a more amateur perspective or a hobbyist perspective. I'm not going into photography and modeling in an attempt to go professional or anything like that. So I do need to keep it in mind that I'm doing things on a smaller scale than what others may have been doing. Some other folks who have watched previous iterations of this panel that I give at other cons have asked about maybe touching more on technology like cameras and stuff that you can use for photography. That's not something that I have experience with because I do not have photography training. So if I were to give this panel again in the future, I would probably need to have another person come on to help me out with that and fill in those knowledge gaps that I myself do not have. Nico also asks, do you have any memorable photo shoots that you've done at home or at a con? Yes, I have tons and tons of memorable photo shoots that I have done. Let's see. I know that, I've done this panel, this is the 11th time that I've done this particular panel, and I often get asked the same kinds of questions. So I'm trying to think of things to mention that I haven't already talked about. Let's see. Well, one photo shoot that I did at home that I was pretty proud of was a mad scientist photo shoot that I did. I had a lab coat and a stethoscope. I braided my hair. As you know, I use my own actual hair in my fursuit, so I can style and dye it in a myriad of unlimited ways. And I also had some props which I had purchased from the Anthro New England convention when they had I think they had like a mad science theme or just a science in general theme. So they had a set of test tubes with the Anthro New England logo on them. I utilized those as a prop and also a microscope that I had. Also, my partner had a light stand, like a lamp stand with light bulbs that you can change the color in. So I utilized those to make a dynamic inside, kind of like creepy haunted house style lighting. And those pictures came out fantastic. Again, I was very limited with the space that I had, but by using creative cropping, I was able to get a very nice looking framing for the shots. And they came out very well. People online reacted super well to them. I even had folks asking me how my job allowed me to go in and take pictures in fursuit. They thought that I was an actual scientist because the pictures came out that well. So that was always a very, very high compliment to receive. And also part of why I mentioned earlier that the pictures that you see online may not always be the actual truth. I guess it's something that people these days take for granted. Like, you forget that you can play around, you can have fun, you can use your imagination and be creative like that. Another question from Nico, who asks, what do you find the most unique about your fursuit? It's really beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you think so. Obviously, the thing that I would find the most unique about my fursuit is that it is of my own original character. One of the great things about furries is that we have such creativity, imagination, and interaction with the community that we take part in. Many other fandoms and communities that are based on existing properties like anime or TV shows or comics or things like that. Of course, you have people making OCs and even making fan works about the existing characters, but you really don't see that kind of self representation in those communities. Somebody making a My Hero Academia fan character is not the norm, whereas in furry we all have an original character that we have created to represent ourselves in this community with other furries, and I think that's something so special about furry and part of why it appeals to so many people. You're creating your own image the way that you would like others in the community to perceive you and react to you. So yes, when it came time for me to get a fursuit, I researched heavily because I had a very specific idea in mind for how I wanted my persona and my character to be represented physically. I also had to take into account certain considerations that I physically needed to have in a fursuit so that I would be able to suit safely and comfortably. Those came from my time in cosplaying. I spent many years as a cosplayer before I got involved in fursuiting and furry conventions. So I took my time spent during that particular hobby to basically delineate the kinds of things that I knew that I would need to have in a fursuit. Obviously, for anybody watching here, one of the most blatant things that you'll notice that looks different about my fursuit than the other fursuits that you might have seen running around Megaplex this weekend is that this costume does not have fake eyes in it. These are my actual real eyes that you can see blinking and smiling and emoting back at you. There are a few other use your own eyes fursuits that exist out there. The concept has been around for decades and decades. Some of the earliest fursuits in the furry community were use your own eyes suits. But something that's a little bit special about mine as well is that it also utilizes my own hair by request. At the time, there was only one fursuit maker in the entire community who was able to create a fursuit like this, which was MagpieBones. So I commissioned her for my fursuit, and her ideals and her vision for the costumes that she creates aligned perfectly with what I had in mind for Shetani. And I could not be more happy with the way that my fursuit came out. I am very much aware that this is not the style of fursuit that appeals to other people, but this is my personal idea for what I had for my costume, and I could not be happier. I also enjoy the fact that my simple presence online or in person at cons informs folks that there is not just one way to fursuit. Not all fursuits have to look like, a cartoon character or a colorful Disney mascot kind of thing. So many people have come up to me saying like, oh my God, I was thinking about fursuiting, but that style of fursuit, the kind that when you say fursuit, that's what pops into somebody's head. Those never appealed to me, so I didn't think fursuiting was anything that I could get into. But seeing you here, wow, now I realize that there's so much style and creativity out there, and you've let me know that maybe I can be a fursuiter too. And that's always super rewarding for me to hear from other folks. Just to let you know, I'm seeing a lot of questions from the same people in the chat here, which is perfectly fine, but I do see that there are multiple people watching the stream right now. So anybody else, please do not feel shy or afraid to ask any questions that you may have. Like I said, about fursuiting, about topics that I mentioned earlier in the panel, about furry conventions, online conventions and in-person conventions, how those stack up with each other, even just, questions about me or my character, or how cosplaying compares to fursuiting, things like that. I would be more than happy to answer any of those questions from you, as well as the folks at Physical Megaplex. I'm super duper excited to hear from the people who showed up in person to see my panel. Mary Lee says, I've seen so many of Shetani's panels, I can't think of a question I haven't heard. Well, yes, that's because you're already familiar with me and my Fursuiting in the Time of Quarantine panel, which the title is no longer really accurate for, but I just became so well known for this panel that I decided to keep it for the time being. As I had mentioned previously, this is I don't even have enough fingers, but this is the 11th panel that I will be presenting at. Over the years, I have presented at the online iterations of Megaplex, Furpocalypse, Midwest Fur Fest, New Year's Furry Bowl, Texas Furry Fiesta, CozyCon, Blue Ridge Fur Fair, Fernal Equinox, and Anthrocon. And then back again here, like I said, Megaplex is completing the circuit. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased and humbled to have had my panel idea accepted by so many prestigious and great furry conventions over the years. If anyone has tried to submit a panel to a convention, you'll know that the demand is quite high. It can be very, very hard to get your panel on a schedule. So just knowing that the things that I had to speak about were so appealing to folks is very rewarding to me. When I went into this, I was very nervous about hosting a panel for the first time, as I did not feel that I had anything worth talking about, or that people wouldn't want to hear me talk for an hour and a half about something. But the first furry convention that I attended online, I was just blown away by how friendly and welcoming the situation was. Of course, it doesn't compare to an in-person convention, but I felt a lot of the energy was there that, you know, we want to have when we go to furry cons. Obviously, the reason that we attend conventions is to socialize and network with others in our own community. And I also had, there was a friend of mine who hosted a panel at an online brony convention, not a furry convention, but they asked, you know, for people to come by and support them during their panel. While watching their panel, I noticed that, well, you know, this kind of seems like something that I could do. And I submitted my panel to Megaplex, good old Megaplex in 2020, and I was accepted. That was the first time that I did my panel, and I had so much fun. I had a great time, and it was so wonderful to interact with folks in this setting. The 11 panels that I've done over the past year, I feel are a great experience for hosting panels at conventions. And when it is safe for me to go back out to physical conventions once again, I am super confident that I will be able to, you know, host even more better panels in the future. Something else that I've had, folks. Oh yes, Mary Lee asks, with that thought, how will you carry this forward? Once things are more fully open, how will you expand your fursuiting presence in the communities? That is a great question. Thank you so much for asking. So I am the type of person who engages with the furry community purely on an individual basis. Many other fursuiters, you know, there's tons of different ways that fursuiters can interact with their communities, things like volunteering or charity efforts or entertaining, public suiting, that kind of thing. Those aspects of it have never really appealed too much to me. I fursuit for myself first and foremost, and to make myself happy. So as for how my fursuiting presence will expand in the communities, I don't really foresee me doing anything different. I'm not really out there to be like a spokesperson for fursuiters or enhance fursuiter optics or whatever. I'm just kind of doing my own thing and having fun. That being said, I would love to start heading more gatherings, and specifically for fursuiters in the community for hobbies and interests of mine that I would love to engage more with people on. If there's anything that this pandemic and the activities that I have done online during it have shown me, is that I do have the capacity to, be a creator and be in charge of events and things like that. Previously to this, the most that I had really done would be to run things like meetups. For example, I ran a MagpieBones Fursuiter meetup at Anthrocon 2019. I scheduled it, got a whole bunch of people together, and we took some pictures together. That was super fun. I'd love to do more stuff like that at cons in the future. Paneling at conventions, that would be more of a question. It would really depend on the specific con. If it is a very, very busy con like Anthrocon, oftentimes there's only so many hours in the day, so I may not have the personal capacity to host a panel at a big con like that, but smaller ones, I could certainly look into it. I'm hoping that in the future we may not need a panel about how to fursuit in quarantine, crossing fingers that everything works out, but this type of panel is very easy to adapt into fursuiting in between conventions or fursuiting at home without going to events, which I've kind of already done here. If anyone attending has watched my panel last year, comparing it to this one, you can notice that a lot of the things that I've discussed have changed as, the state of the world and the state of the furry community has changed as well. I feel like it would be pretty simple to adapt this into something that could be given at an in-person convention. If that were to happen, I would probably want to get a co-host on, like stated, to cover those knowledge gaps for things that I don't have the first-hand experience with, namely public fursuiting and fursuit photography and videography with professional equipment, as those are the two biggest things that folks who've watched this panel previously have asked me about. I pause for a second to get a drink of water. It is very hot wearing a fursuit, as anyone who is a fursuiter watching this will know. So it is very important to stay hydrated, especially for someone like me, who I can't take off my fursuit head at a moment's notice to get a drink of water like regular fursuiters. It's like the headless lounge at furry cons, that's great to have, but I never can utilize the headless lounge the way that it's meant to be utilized. I definitely take advantage of the water and the big fans. Oh, those are such a relief when I go to furry cons, but I can't. When I'm in fursuit, I'm pretty much locked in there for the time being at a convention. Oh, that's something else that I didn't mention. My fursuiting stamina has increased greatly over this past year, even without being at physical events, which is kind of the opposite of what you might think. But I've been fursuiting pretty much every weekend. Like I mentioned earlier, I do game streams in my fursuit on the weekends, so as any folks here who are familiar with my Shetani Plays live streams will know, I'm in fursuit in those for upwards of 2 to 4 hours at a stretch. So I'm so excited for conventions to be safe for me to attend again, because I'm like ready to go. I'm going to fursuit so much. I'm going to have such a great time. I'm going to sweat all over the place, and I'm going to enjoy it. Sorry if the microphone is picking up the metal sounds of my straw. I have a metal straw here for sanitary purposes. At physical conventions, as anyone who's there at Megaplex will know, usually plastic straws are provided for the fursuiters, big long straws to drink water from. So I kind of carried that forward, and I got myself a metal straw. So when I'm streaming or gaming, I can have some water while I'm in fursuit and help keep my activity levels up. Before that, I used to just steal the plastic straws from furry conventions, which is not a very sustainable practice, especially since plastic straws are so brittle and you can't sanitize them, so it's pretty gross. Alright, looks like Exito asks, do you think conventions like Megaplex will continue hosting virtually into 2022? So that's kind of a twofold question there. It's, well, do I wish that conventions would do that? Absolutely. Furry conventions going virtual has, like I stated in the beginning of the panel, not sure if you caught the beginning or not, but these furry cons going virtual have made the convention experience accessible to so many more folks than before. There is a great amount of diversity within our furry community, and there are often folks in the furry community that are passed over and whom we simply forget about from time to time, those being marginalized folks such as those with disabilities or financial limitations that prevent these folks from enjoying things like conventions in the way that they are meant to be enjoyed. With cons going virtual, friends of mine who had, for example, visual impairments were so happy that they could finally participate in a furry con when they couldn't go to one in person, you know. Folks who have certain conditions that would limit their ability to handle crowds or walking for long stretches, things like that. They can attend virtual cons and get that same socialization and fun party time community experience. So I would hope that convention runners keep that in mind as they continue forward and we start returning to more physical events. Megaplex had stated that they were intending to have a hybrid convention this year. I would have loved to see the hybrid aspect more openly advertised. Like I stated, they were accepting virtual and physical panels this year, but I am the only virtual panelist on the schedule. Whether that has to do with the quality of the panels that were submitted or simply the lack of visibility of the fact that they were hosting an online con in combination with the physical con, I'm not sure. But in any case, I would certainly hope that this continues. Previously to 2020, the online presence of conventions was typically limited to a live stream of the main event's ballroom and whatever events happened to be going on there. One great thing is that through this past year and a half, many of our favorite conventions have set up the infrastructure for hosting online events. So hopefully, now that that's already in place, they can simply continue that forward into 2022 and beyond with online aspect of physical conventions. What I would love to see is a physical con where they're also broadcasting in people from home so that both can interact with each other via like webcam or audio calls and stuff like that, and the people at home and the people at cons can seamlessly interact with each other. I know that that's easier said than done. I believe I had asked that of some con runner friends of mine who said that basically it comes down to like Wi-Fi in convention hotels is really crappy and like the latency simply wouldn't support it. When I envisioned doing this panel, I always envisioned they'd have like a webcam in the panels room too at Megaplex, and there'd be like a person with a microphone holding it up so that the viewers could ask questions and I could answer them live. That would be like the coolest thing to me. So hopefully in the future, these big conventions with a big operating budget, things like Anthrocon and Midwest Fur Fest, BLFC even, hopefully we can see things like that happening as technology is tied more into the conventions that we've grown to know and love, and convention hosts and convention runners are more cognizant of the demand for folks at home to be able to access free conventions without having to travel there in person. Onigo also asked, any memorable video projects that you have been a part of? Oh yes, tons. I actually have two video projects most recently that I'm super excited about. However, neither of those have come out yet, so I can't really speak about them at this time. I know it sounds like super hush hush, but that's part of the way that things go. Video projects. So not only the group fursuit dance videos that I mentioned during the panel. Something else that I have been taking part in over this pandemic is I've been doing a lot of interviews, whether that be for podcasts or like streams and stuff like that. I did an interview with Arctic Random, who is just such an amazing person. He is so wonderful, and he did barely a chat with me, is what he calls it, because his persona is a polar bear with fox ears, and we just chatted for like hours about our involvement with the furry community and what it means to us. And he drew my portrait while we were chatting, and it was just so much fun. He was so personable and so wonderful to talk to. That video is up on my YouTube. I think it's right. My video is mirrored, so I want to make sure I'm pointing the right way. But yeah, my YouTube channel is right there, youtube.com/Shetani, if you want to watch my video with him. Also, Furry Trash Podcast is such an amazing furry podcast for anyone who's interested in that. They have interviewed so many fursuiters, almost 100 fursuiters and furries over the time that the podcast has been in creation. That's furry.trashpod on Instagram, and they also have a Spotify page. They recently just branched out into doing video interviews, and my video interview with Furry Trash Podcast just came out today. So if you want to check that out and see my interview with them, you absolutely can. But yeah, that host is amazing. They are like the best person to talk to. Whenever I do my interviews with them, we always end up talking for like an hour before we actually get to the meat and potatoes of the interview, because they're just so much fun to chat with. So anybody interested in connecting more with the furry community, I recommend looking into getting interviewed for podcasts or video podcasts, things like that. It's so much fun, and it's just so rewarding. You can make a ton of friends from that, friends that, I still talk to today, and I consider, some of the most treasured folks in my life. So that's super, super great. Looks like we are getting down to the wire here. We've got a couple more minutes left. If there are any more questions, anything about fursuiting, anything that I talked about in the panel that you would like me to elaborate on, if you got any questions about, furry conventions, my history at them, how you think things should continue in the future, anything like that. And I will put up my information slide right here. If you are interested in learning more about me and what I do, if you want to follow me elsewhere online, I do have a Twitter page at Shetani Cheetah. I'm also on Instagram under the same name. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/Shetani. If you would like to learn more about who I am, what I do in the furry community, my fursuit, my photography and artwork, the background behind my character, I do have a homepage that you can check out. Furry Roma says, I think with many new suitors... What happened? Did it go away? Did I close it? It doesn't like that I minimized the window. Sorry. I think the slide disappeared. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know what happened, but anyway. Furry Roma says, I think with many new suitors is going to be for those who self-made, and the other half are those who commissioned. A bit of a syntax error in that statement there, but I think I get what you're saying. Fursuiting is definitely an accessible hobby for anyone who would like to get into it. keep in mind that all fursuits are handmade by artisans. There's no factory that makes fursuits. These are all self-made by people. So anyone at home, if you're interested in getting into making your own fursuit, you can absolutely do that. It's a great way for folks who are simply interested in crafting something themselves and having a better personal connection with it. Or also, if you don't have the funds available to commission a fursuit from a more established maker, you can also make your own. This day and age, there are so many tutorials online. You've got like video tutorials you can look up on YouTube, how to make fursuits. You've got patterns and things that you can download from other fursuit makers that provide those readily available to help newer folks get into fursuit making. And I just love to see all the creativity and all the novel ideas that are brought into fursuiting from just like the new people getting into making fursuits. For example, some things that we take for granted, like moving jaws on fursuits and follow me eyes with toonie fursuits, those were once really unique things, and now we sort of take them for granted. There's been a ton of advancement in like LEDs and like programming wiring stuff. I don't know if anybody is into like protogens. They've got like the fursuit masks with visors and like the facial expressions change and things like that. All that stuff is so cool. A lot of puppetry fursuits I'm seeing, fursuits where the expression can be changed, like the suit can snarl, the ears can go back, with feather crests that can go up and down, and the eyes can blink, all through like wires and puppetry, all manually controlled. I love those. Those are so great to see. And all that is just coming from newcomers making their own fursuits into the community, and that's super great. Though keep in mind that you do not need to have a fursuit to be a furry. You don't need to have a fursuit to go to furry conventions. Studies have shown that the percentage of furries who own fursuits is sitting at only about 20% or lower. Most furries do not have a fursuit and aren't even interested in them. It's just a matter of visibility when people talk about the furry community and try to depict us, especially to outsiders. The people in the costumes are much more visually interesting looking than the regular people in jeans and a t-shirt. So they focus on the costumes, and that's what people think being a furry is about. It absolutely isn't. You can totally go to cons, you can totally be a furry, you can have a character, you can create your own art, and you can socialize with other furries without having a fursuit at all. It's simply an option for the people who enjoy that. Exito asks, once things start getting safer, is there a particular way you would recommend connecting with local furs and fur meets? That's a great question, and one that I get very frequently, people asking, how can I find out about local furries? How can I get involved in my local furry community? One of the easiest things to do is to look up if there is a furry convention in your area. In the United States, we would look for, say, a furry con in your state. For example, a furry in Florida, if you're looking for furries in your area, you can Google Furry Conventions Florida and it would come up Megaplex. For conventions, these will usually have publicly available and publicly accessible group chats on like Telegram, Facebook, Discord, things like that. You can join a group chat for the convention, and then in that chat you can ask about any smaller local groups that you can be connected to. So maybe a furry who lives in Florida but they're not in the Orlando area, they can join a Megaplex group chat on Telegram and say, hey, I live in insert name of town in Florida that I don't know about because I don't live in Florida. Do you guys know of any furry groups near me? And people can be like, oh yeah, here's a link to them. Here's like their Twitter page or their Discord channel or whatever. There's also a great website called furdar.org. I'm going to put the link to that in the chat here. There we go. That is a website where anyone can add local furry events that are happening near you. So if you know of a fur meet that's the furry group near you is having, you can put that on the website. You can also search for groups in your area. It is a very new website, so we don't have the greatest amount of coverage right now, but anybody can attend, anybody can add events to that site. It will be a great opportunity for other people to help grow and make it a great resource for people to connect with the local furry groups in their area, because I know that can be very hard, especially if you move to a new place and you don't know anyone there, or if you live in a state or a country where there is not a very large online furry presence. You can feel quite alone, and resources like this can help you connect with the folks in your area. So I think we are coming pretty close to the end of the panel. I do thank you all for coming by and supporting me here on my very last online convention panel. Please do remember that convention staff, performers, and panelists do all this work to put on a spectacular, fun, and educational event for furries entirely on a volunteer basis. If you enjoyed the panel I hosted today and you would like to show your appreciation, I do have a Ko-fi page set up at ko-fi.com/Shetani for donations, and you can spot me a cup of tea or two. Once again, barring technical difficulties, I do plan to have a recording of this panel available on my YouTube channel in the coming weeks, so you can re-watch at your leisure and share the information from people who may not have been able to watch the broadcast here at Megaplex. The link to that is going to be up above my head there, youtube.com/Shetani, as well as all of the other social media platforms where you can follow me online, get in contact with me, ask me any questions that you didn't have time to ask during the panel, any comments or observations, feedback on the information that I presented here for you today. So I believe the closing ceremonies of Megaplex are starting very, very soon. I do want to thank you all so much for watching and for coming out to me here today. I would like to let you all go so that you can catch the closing ceremonies. Again, if anybody in person in Megaplex is in the room right now during my panel, if you could just take a picture of the panel room, like with me on the screen or whatever the case may be, and then send it to me on social media, I would love that. I would just love to have like a keepsake of my panel that I presented at Megaplex 2021. Alrighty then. Thank you all so much for coming out to Fursuiting in the time of quarantine. I am Shetani. It has been a pleasure. I will let you all go. Thank you so much for watching. Have fun, stay safe, and keep on suiting. Bye-bye.